It's 10 a.m. by the studio clock. You're watching Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tina Jha. Let's start straight away with the headlines this morning. India and Qatar signed 7 agreements to boost economic ties. Prime Minister addresses diaspora, says those opposing him are targeting him for not tolerating graft. Arrives in Switzerland on third leg of tour. Prohibitory orders in Delhi bordering Haryana as Jat agitation enters day 2. First day sees muted response as only a few hundred seen at protest spots. Death toll in Mathura violence climbs to 29. Home Minister Rajnath Singh asks UP government to order CBI probe. Aid agency says civilians fleeing Islamic State stronghold of Fallujah in Iraq are being shot dead. Iraqi government slows down offensive to protect people trapped inside the city. And Novak Djokovic captures first French Open, becomes just third man in history to hold all 4 Grand Slam titles at the same time. Garbiñe Muguruza also becomes first Spanish woman since 1998 to win at the Roland Garros. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived in Geneva on the third leg of his 5-nation tour. MEA spokesperson Vikas Swarup tweeted on Modi's arrival in Switzerland late last night. During his 2-day visit to Switzerland, the Prime Minister will be meeting Swiss President Johann Schneider-Ammann. The Prime Minister is likely to raise the issue of black money stashed by Indians in Swiss banks. He's also likely to seek Switzerland's support for India's membership of the 48-member nuclear suppliers group, as Switzerland is a key member of the elite grouping. Ahead of his 5-nation tour, Prime Minister had said Switzerland is India's key partner in Europe. The Prime Minister is also expected to meet Indian scientists working at CERN. And while the Prime Minister was in Qatar, India and Qatar signed 7 agreements to boost economic ties. These include MOUs ranging from investments to skills, health to tourism promotion. Earlier, the Prime Minister also held delegation-level talks with Qatar Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani.
India and Qatar on Sunday signed 7 agreements following talks between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Qatar Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. Of these, one key agreement says Qatar will invest in India's National Investment and Infrastructure Fund (NIIF), which was set up last year for enhancing infrastructure financing. Another MOU was signed for cooperation in skill development. A third MOU calls for cooperation in tourism between the two countries, while another MOU on cooperation in the field of health. A 5th MOU was signed between Finance Intelligence Unit of both the nations, while a 6th one on cooperation and mutual assistance in customs matters. A first executive program for MOU in the field of youth and sports between the two countries was also signed.
Both sides felt that time has come that we need to move beyond a trading relationship, get into strategic investments. In the asset reconstruction, like that our PSUs and IIF will be looking at assets which are under distress and to see whether we can get FDI into these sectors and revive some of these projects.
Prime Minister Modi also met business leaders in Qatar on Sunday. He attended the roundtable meet with businessmen, describing India as a land of opportunity. The Prime Minister invited Qatar's business leaders to take advantage by investing in the country. Prime Minister also addressed the Indian community later on Sunday. He took a dig at his detractors, saying that he is facing a lot of criticism because he has cracked down on graft.
इतनी कठिनाइयों के बावजूद भी मैंने भी कईयों की मिठाई बंद कर दी। तो मुझे भी तो थोड़ी तकलीफ पड़ेगी।
On a 5-nation tour, the Prime Minister had earlier travelled to Afghanistan. The Prime Minister is in Switzerland right now for a 2-day visit. The next leg of the PM's tour will be Washington and Mexico. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And back home, Finance Minister Arunjaitley is all set to review the performance of PSU banks, focusing on asset quality and recapitalization today. The quarterly performance review meeting of PSU banks comes amid a pile-up of stressed asset to 8 lakh crore rupees in the banking system, with almost 5.5 lakh crore rupees now getting classified as gross non-performing assets and the rest 2.5 lakh crore rupees remaining as restructured assets. However, the stress clouds are yet to pass as infrastructure, steel, construction and textile sectors remain stressed and threaten to throw up fresh NPAs in the coming quarters. When asked about government's expectation from the RBI, Jaitley refused to make any direct comment before the review meet. He is to meet CEOs of public sector banks today to discuss various key challenges which banks are facing today, especially growing non-performing assets.
One of the areas in which we need now is to get the banks in the best of health.
Right, sir.
Because the banks must also now start supporting growth,
Right, sir.
which is extremely important.
Right, sir.
We have empowered the banks sufficiently to recover the dues,
Right, sir.
and I'm sure some of these dues will become performing assets in course of time,
Right, sir.
in view of all the steps which we have taken.
Sir.
But the banks have to also maintain their credit lending facilities,
Sir.
so that lending for growth continues.
Sir.
And ahead of the RBI's monetary policy review on the 7th of June, the industry is clamoring for a rate cut. While retail inflation surged in April, the wholesale price inflation turned positive after a gap of 17 months. The question now is a rate cut imminent, or is it too early to expect one? We explore in this report.
Uptick in inflation and global petroleum may prod RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan to hold off a fresh cut. The Reserve Bank of India has cut key policy rates by 1.5 percentage points since January 2015, but home loan borrowers have got only around one-third of the benefit from commercial banks. The tardy transmission of interest rate cuts by the central bank into the banking system may also force the RBI to adopt a wait-and-watch posture. Even spurt in the consumer price inflation in April to 5.39% from 4.83% has dashed the hopes of another rate cut. Wholesale price inflation turned positive after a gap of 17 months, rising 0.34% year-on-year in April against minus 0.85% in March.
Where service tax has been increased and petrol prices have gone up because the crude oil is getting stronger and stronger and cross $50. So there may be an issue that RBI may like to wait another, I think maybe September somewhere, that they may like to take a call on this issue.
Indian economy grew at a stellar 7.9% in the last quarter of 2015-16. The worrisome part of the economy was that gross fixed capital formation, a proxy for investment, contracted 1.9% in the fourth quarter of 2015-16. Corporate India feels that higher interest rates are leading to lower investments by corporate companies and make a case for another rate cut.
As a industry chamber, obviously our expectation is that the repo rate will be sharpening. But look at the food prices have started increasing, and even the WPI has also started from a negative zone. It has started coming up.
However, a clearer picture on the monsoon and the recognition of the government's efforts on economic revival may nudge the RBI to adopt an accommodative stance. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Moving on to some other news. Round 2 of the Jat agitation began in Haryana yesterday. This time, however, the stir drew a muted response with only a few hundred men seen at protest sites on day 1 of the renewed agitation. Despite that, high alert was in place in as many as 9 districts. Prohibitory orders were also issued in parts of Delhi, especially on the border areas with Haryana. After the violent agitation by Jats in February that saw the death of 30 people, a second round of the Jat quota stir began in Haryana on Sunday. Leaders of the All India Jat Arakshan Sangharsh Samiti began the agitation at Jassia village of Rohtak, which was the epicenter of violence during the February stir. The first day of the fresh agitation drew a lukewarm response. The protesters also assured no violence this time around and no blockade of crucial railroad links.
हम अपने साथियों से भी, अपने समाज से भी, और अपने समाज से तो हमारा समाज तो बिल्कुल शांति प्रिय ही बैठेगा। हमारे समाज की तो पूरी, हम तो 35 बिरादरी जो कहते हैं, हम तो 36 बिरादरी की बात कर रहे हैं। हम तो सबसे कहते हैं शांति की अपील रखें। हमारा भाईचारा वैसा का वैसा ही है। ये आरक्षण हमारा मुद्दा हम मांग रहे हैं, हमारी किसी से व्यक्तिगत लड़ाई नहीं है।
हमारी तरफ से बिल्कुल शांतिपूर्वक रहेगी, बशर्ते प्रशासन और सरकार हमें सुइयां ना चबोए तो।
The administration, however, didn't want to run the risk of the February violence. It deployed over 5,000 paramilitary personnel along with large contingents of the state police to maintain law and order. Central forces also carried out flag marches in several sensitive towns, maintaining a close vigil on national highways as well as railway tracks.
हमारे पास अब तक 55 पैरामिलिट्री फोर्स की कंपनी आ गई हैं, जिसमें सीआरपीएफ है, आरएएफ है, आईटीबीपी, बीएसएफ, ये सारी कंपनी आ गई हैं और सभी ज़िलों में हमने इनको डिप्लॉय कर दिया है। इसके साथ ही जहाँ जहाँ पे हमने धरना स्थल मुकर्रर किए हैं, हम सभी को परसुएट कर रहे हैं कि वहाँ पे अपना धरना शांतिपूर्वक तरीके से करें।
पुलिस की तरफ से सभी तरह के अरेंजमेंट किए गए हैं, जो भी मैक्सिमम पॉसिबल हो सकते हैं वो अरेंजमेंट किए हैं, जिसमें हमारे जो स्टेट की, जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट की जो फोर्सेस हैं, वो जो पैरामिलिट्री फोर्सेस हैं वो लगाई गई हैं, एंटी राइट इक्विपमेंट प्रोवाइड किया गया है, और साथ में जो लेस लेथल वेपन्स हैं या जो गन्स एटसेट्रा हैं वो भी उनको प्रोवाइड की गई हैं।
As a precautionary measure, the Delhi police also gave prohibitory orders in parts of southwest, northwest and southeast Delhi, areas which were affected by the Jat stir in February. The Munak Canal that supplies most of Delhi's water is also being guarded by the central troops. The second round of the agitation comes after the Punjab and Haryana High Court struck down the state government's decision to allow quota to the Jat community in the other backward classes category. Apart from reservation in jobs and educational institutions, the Jats are also demanding withdrawal of cases against those arrested for indulging in violence during the previous stir. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. Meanwhile, the death toll from last week's anti-encroachment drive at Jawahar Bagh area in Mathura has risen to 29, with 2 more people succumbing to injuries. Remember, the clashes had also left 2 police officers dead, including 1 superintendent of police. The Mathura police has registered 45 cases against as many as 3,000 encroachers belonging to an outfit that claimed to owe allegiance to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Meanwhile, a probe has also been launched to ascertain the circumstances leading to the incident by the Aligarh division. The incident has left the ruling Samajwadi Party government red-faced and has also invited sharp criticism from the opposition parties. Home Minister Rajnath Singh has suggested that the UP government should write to the centre asking for a CBI probe if intended.
मैं उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार से भी यह कहना चाहता हूं कि सचमुच आप मामले का खुलासा करना चाहते हैं तो आपको यह चाहिए कि पूरे मामले की जांच कराने के लिए भारत सरकार को लिखे कि पूरे मामले की सीबीआई जांच हो जाए ताकि दूध का दूध और पानी का पानी हो जाए.
And a look now at what else is expected to take place through the day in our segment The Day Ahead. A special court which on the 2nd of June had convicted 24 accused in the 2002 Gulbarg Society massacre case is expected to pronounce the quantum of sentence today. The prosecution is likely to seek capital punishment for the 11 convicted who were charged with murder, while the lawyer of victims may seek life imprisonment for them. Congress Legislature Party leader V. Narayanasamy will be sworn in as Puducherry Chief Minister today. Along with him, 5 Congress legislators will also be sworn in as ministers. They include A. Namasivayam, Maladi Krishna Rao, Shah Jahan, M. Kandasamy and R. Kamalakanan. Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry Kiran Bedi will administer them the oath of office. Fighting for an Olympic ticket on the unfamiliar legal turf, Sushil Kumar's glorious wrestling career may meet an unceremonious end when the Delhi High Court will today pronounce its verdict on who gets to board the flight to Rio between him and Narsingh Yadav. An unfavourable verdict for Sushil Kumar may not be the end on the legal front, as he can still challenge the ruling in the Supreme Court. Light to moderate rains and thunder showers at isolated places in the state gave respite from the heat in Uttar Pradesh. There are predictions of dust storm in Delhi today. According to the Met Department, Siroli Gaspur received 50 millimeters of rainfall, Dharora received 30 millimeters of rainfall, while Nawabganj and Pilibhit received 10 millimeters of rainfall each. Time for a short break here on Breakfast News. We'll be right back.
Art arisen from a multi-hued cultural canvas. Tradition and cultural fervour dating back centuries. And encircling them all, there's a magic that awes. Embrace your nation's brilliant human warmth. Watch Colours of India, Sundays at 9:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Thanks for staying with us. Moving on to all the international news now. Civilians fleeing Fallujah, an Iraqi stronghold of the Islamic State, are being shot dead as they leave, according to an aid agency. The Norwegian Refugee Council said families it had interacted with has described people being shot dead as they cross the Euphrates River. The head of Fallujah's regional council has told Reuters that people were trying to now cross the Euphrates in refrigerators, cupboards and barrels. Iraq's Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi has said that the offensive has been slowed down to protect people trapped inside the city. However, the latest area secured by Iraq's military with the help of US-led airstrikes was the southern district of Naimia. Fallujah lies just 50 kilometers west of Baghdad and has been held by the Islamic State since 2014. It is now one of the two remaining Islamic State strongholds in Iraq. The Iraqi army began the fight to retake the city last month. And moving on now to France. French President François Hollande has said that the country will ensure that the Euro 2016 is without any problem. While he acknowledged that there is a threat of strikes and the dread of terrorism hanging over the tournament that will begin on the 10th of June, he said the country will not be intimidated. The United States had last week warned that the lure of the Euros could also tempt terror attacks. The French authorities have mustered 90,000 security personnel to guard stadiums and fan zones where spectators will gather to watch the matches on giant screens. The threat over the Euro comes at a time when France is battling floods and the devastation that it has left behind.
Mais nous avons mis tous les moyens pour réussir. Et il ne faut jamais se laisser impressionner par la menace. Elle existe, la menace. Et je ne serais pas dans la situation où je suis, président de la République, si je ne vous disais pas très clairement qu'il y a une menace. Cette menace, elle vaut pour, hélas, un temps qui sera long. Donc...
And time for some more international updates in this quick world wrap. Tributes from around the world continue to pour in for boxing legend Muhammad Ali following his death. The former fighter died in hospital in Phoenix, Arizona after suffering from respiratory problems. Self-proclaimed the greatest, the three-time world heavyweight champion was known as much for his activism as his boxing brilliance. A public funeral for him will be held in his hometown of Louisville in Kentucky next Friday. Seven people were killed on Sunday when Taliban gunmen attacked a courthouse in eastern Afghanistan. An attack the insurgent group said was in retaliation for the government execution of 6 militants in May. Among those killed in the attack was the newly named head of the appeals court. The gunmen also injured at least 19 other people before being killed finally by the security forces. Following the French capital's worst flooding in decades, signs at last the river scene has stabilized and is slowly starting to recede. Officials say they do not expect water levels, however, to return to normal for at least a week after peaking above 6 meters in the last week. Across the country, 4 people are now reported to have died in the floods and thousands forced to flee from their homes. Swiss voters on Sunday rejected by a wide margin a proposal to introduce a guaranteed basic income for everyone living in the wealthy country after an uneasy debate about the future of work at a time of increasing automation. Supporters had said introducing a monthly income of 2,500 Swiss francs per adult and 625 francs per child under 18, no matter how much they work, would promote human dignity and public service. Large opposition rallies have been held in the Polish capital Warsaw on Sunday. Around 50,000 people, according to organizers, hit the city streets to rally against the conservative government and what they see as its anti-democratic policies. The ruling Law and Justice Party has rejected criticism over recent reforms of the judiciary, surveillance laws and also the media, despite a formal warning from the EU which said Poland's democracy and rule of law were at risk. And on to the sports front now. Novak Djokovic captured a first French Open at the 12th time of asking on Sunday, becoming just the third man in history to hold all 4 Grand Slam titles at the same time. In the women's draw, Garbiñe Muguruza became the first Spanish woman to win at Roland Garros since Alexandra Sánchez Vicario beat Monica Seles in the final back in 1998.
A French Open champion at last, and the first man in nearly half a century to win 4 consecutive major championships. Novak Djokovic grabbed a racket and etched a heart in the very red clay that had given him such heartache in the past. In his 12th appearance at Roland Garros and 4th final, the top-seeded Djokovic earned that elusive title, casting aside a shaky opening set to dominate the rest of the way in a 3-6, 6-1, 6-2, 6-4 victory over number 2 Andy Murray on Sunday, buoyed by a supportive crowd.
It's like my spirit has left my body, and I was just observing my body, fight the last 3-4 exchanges, going left to right and hoping that Andy will make a mistake, which has happened. And just a thrilling moment, really one of the most beautiful I've had in my career.
The Serbian superstar is now the first man since Jim Courier in 1992 to win the Australian and French Opens back-to-back, and only the third man after Don Barge and Rod Laver to hold the 4 majors at the same time.
Well, it's incredibly flattering to know that Rod Laver was the last one, that managed to do that. Of course, there's not many words that can describe it. It's one of the ultimate challenges that you have as a tennis player. So I'm very proud, very thrilled, obviously. And
Murray, the world number 2 and the first British man in the final in Paris since Bunny Austin in 1937, remains with 2 Grand Slam titles as he failed to become the first winner of the French Open since Fred Perry 81 years ago.
I think the depth in the game just now is strong. Some people might think differently, but the level of tennis I think is pretty high now, and it's something that you probably won't see for a long time. And yeah, his performances over the last 18 months to 2 years have been exceptional and deserves to be number 1.
In the women's draw, Garbiñe Muguruza achieved the rare feat of overpowering Serena Williams to claim her maiden Grand Slam title with a win over the world number 1 and defending champion on Saturday. 12 years younger than the American and playing in the first clay court final of her career, the Venezuelan-born Spaniard upset the odds to win 7-5, 6-4.
Hey, I'm here because I deserve my place here. I earned it. I played well. I earned here to be in the final. I think just to don't think about other stuff, just give it all on the court, and doesn't matter who is in front, which round it is. Just to control the emotions, I think it's the key sometimes, especially in a Grand Slam where you're very nervous and excited. When you're a kid and you practice on clay there, you always, I wish I could win Roland Garros. So today is a great day.
For Williams, it was a second straight loss in a Grand Slam final, and it wrecked her hopes once again of winning a 22nd Grand Slam title to draw level with Steffi Graf for most wins in the Open era since 1968.
I know in the first, she won the first set by 1 point, so that just goes to show you have to really play the big points well, and I think she played the big points really well. Well, I think she has a bright future, obviously. She knows how to play on the big stage, and she knows how to win Grand Slams.
Crunching every shot with such venom that she couldn't help throwing in a few double faults as well, Muguruza took world number 1 Williams on at her own power game and came out comfortably on top. Muguruza is one of the 8 women to claim a maiden Grand Slam title in the last 5 years, but of all of these, she perhaps has the greatest potential. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Some more sports updates in Sports Beat. Matthew Fitzpatrick became the youngest ever winner of the Scandinavian Masters on Sunday when he completed a 3-shot victory in Stockholm. The 21-year-old Briton beat 23-year-old compatriot Graham McDowell's record set in 2002 to win his second trophy on the European Tour. Cristiano Ronaldo and Pepe joined their national teammates on Sunday in Lisbon to start the preparation for Euro 2016. Portugal national coach Fernando Santos gave a few days of rest to the two Real Madrid players after they won the Champions League Cup against Atletico Madrid. Fernando Santos now has all the 23-men squad complete after Ronaldo and Pepe joined the training session at the national team headquarters. Pakistan paceman Mohammad Amir, who spent time in jail and served a 5-year ban for spot fixing, was named in a 17-man squad for the Test series in England starting next month. Pakistan chief selector PCB Inzamam ul Haq made the announcement at a news conference in Lahore. Providing Amir is granted a visa to travel to Britain, the series will mark his first Test appearance since he was cleared to return to the sport last September. Italian Valentino Rossi won the Grand Prix of Catalonia for Yamaha on Sunday after a thrilling duel with Spaniard Marc Marquez that ended with a handshake between MotoGP's fierce rivals. Rossi's teammate and reigning champion George Lorenzo was knocked off his bike by Ducati's Andrea Iannone, the man he will replace next year on lap 17. Lorenzo also lost the overall points lead in the championship to Marquez. With the countdown for the Rio Olympics entering its final stage, Russian athletes and their coaches are still in a limbo as the country's athletics federation remains suspended from international competition by the International Association of Athletics Federation. Russia, remember, was banned in November last year after a report by World Anti-Doping Agency Independent Commission found evidence of state-sponsored doping. And that's it from us on this bulletin. Thanks for watching.